Hey everyone, welcome back to NDC, and today we're adding AdMob to a SwiftUI app on Xcode the right way. We're going to be using Swift Package Manager, requesting ATT Consent, the app tracking, and build a reusable banner view right down here with the test view, a lifecycle managed interstitial. We go here and we have a little ad pop up. Woohoo, this is a test ad that we can close out of, and the banner, which sometimes looks different. I don't know, sometimes it says this is a test ad and other times it has the banner, but we can click on these and it'll take us to the appropriate ad. We're just going to be using the test ads all within SwiftUI. No weird UI kit storyboarding. So before we get started, make sure you have Xcode installed on your Mac, ready to go, as well as a Google AdMob account. You can create one completely for free. The setup just takes a little bit of time, and you may want to link an AdSense account ahead of time. I won't be showing you how to do that, just how to use the dashboard and set up the project. Links for everything we talk about today will be in the description below, along with the timestamps, so feel free to jump around if you need to. So you'll want to sign in or sign up with your Google AdMob account. Takes a few seconds. It is completely free. Again, you just might need that AdSense set up. If you've just created your profile, yours might look a little bit different. I've already set up my payment profile because I already have AdSense through YouTube, and I've already set up a ad for testing. But before we hop into Xcode, we need to create a new app on the dashboard. So once you signed in, you'll see on the left side, we do have the apps available. We're going to go ahead and press on that, and you can see any of the apps. I have a couple example apps that I've created, and so we're going to create a new app today. Now, if your app is already available on the App Store, the process is slightly different. I'm just going to assume that it's not. So you choose a platform it's available on. We're doing an iOS app today because we're using Xcode and SwiftUI, and is the app listed on the App Store. So if you already have it on the App Store, it's already been approved by Apple. To get your ads approved, they also need to go through a review process through Google themselves too. Since it's not on the App Store yet, we're just doing an example today, I'm going to say no. You can change and update this at any time. So if you set it up with testing and then, you get it approved on the App Store, you can update this later. Okay, we'll then give it a app name. So I'm just going to call mine AdMob example 2. You of course want to include your actual app name here. If it was already on the App Store for review, you would have to just complete a few steps and be like, hey, this is my app, this is the URL where to find it, and some information like Apple's App Store review. Okay, so we need to add the SDK integration. We'll be doing that with SPM. So I just want to make a little note with the ad units. So let's say you're like, hey, I want to do a banner ad for that interstitial ad, right? You're going to be doing both of these today. You could create one like this, but do not use it when testing in Xcode. Think of it like every time you're running the app and testing, it's saying, hey, this ad is reaching a user. But it's not really, because it's us testing, right? So we do have some test URLs from Google we will be using. If you do want to create them, it's pretty simple. Select the one that you want. So in this case, I had selected banner. You'll give it a name, and you can either do the partner bidding. If you don't know what partner bidding is, I'd probably just leave this off, and you would create that ad unit. There is the advanced setting. So if you want to have video, no video, custom, etc., etc., it's totally up to you. Typically, the default settings are fine. I'm not going to be creating one because I just want to go through the testing links. It would give you a link. Again, don't add that to your Xcode project until it's like on the App Store and it's been approved by Google. Then you would update it. Because again, you don't want to actually get your AdMob account banned for having false kind of flags on the advertisements. So I'll put this in the description below, but this is from the developer documentation for AdMob. You do have some demo ads. We have the app open, interstitial, rewards, and even the banner. So these are going to be the IDs that you're going to be using, not the ones you've generated. You can use the generated ones once your app's been approved and you're ready to go for the final app. So we'll be coming back to this. All right, otherwise I'm going to go ahead and create our Xcode project. All right, so I'm going to create a new project from scratch. You can of course feel free to add it to an existing one. I'll call this one AdMob example, SwiftUI language Swift, no testing or storage needed. Okay, first things first, we do need to add the Swift Package Manager kind of Swift package here. Again, link in the description below, but we're going to be getting the Google Leads Swift Package Manager GoogleMobileAds. Definitely use the description. I don't want anybody typing out any URLs. That would be pretty annoying. Let's go to Xcode, and we'll go to File, and we'll be adding that package dependency. And we'll paste in the URL in the top right, and we can see GoogleMobileAds SDK. We're going to do the up to next major version and add that package. Should be relatively quick. There's only one thing to add, so make sure it's being added to the correct target. Should be A-OK by default. Let's go ahead and add that package. So now that we have it added to our app, let's go ahead and update our Info.plist. So we're going to click on our app target. We're going to go to targets and then info. The first thing we're going to be adding is actually our mobile ads app ID. I'm going to have this blurred out, but you're going to have to copy and paste yours in. So we're going to press plus on the info tab here. So it can just be, under bundle name perhaps. We're going to get rid of the autofill and we're going to type ours out. This is case sensitive. I'm going to spell it out. You can always just pause the video and type it out yourself. So capital G, capital A, capital D, capital A, lowercase pp, L-I-C-A-T-I-O-N, capital I, D-E-N-T-I-F-I-E-R. So we have camel case kind of here. GAD, all in caps, capital A on application, capital I on identifier. Make sure you do not misspell that. Okay, and then we want the type to be string. For the value, we're going to go back to our AdMob dashboard. Let's go back to our app here. If you go to the app settings here, you'll have an app ID. Mine is going to be blurred out. You're going to want to click to copy the app ID, and we can see app ID has been copied to the clipboard. And we're going to paste that under the value. Again, mine is blurred out. Something to note is it's always going to have the publisher and a bunch of numbers, then a tilde, that kind of squiggly line, and then more numbers. Whereas when we look at the demo unit ID, it's pretty much the same, but instead we have the slash instead of the tilde. So you want the one with the tilde, the squiggly. Okay, we're also going to be adding one more thing, which is under privacy. So we're going to scroll all the way down to privacy, near the bottom of the privacy, and we're going to want the tracking usage description. You've probably seen this in a lot of apps that you've downloaded from the App Store. It's like, hey, can we track? And you can either allow or ask not to track. So basically this identifier, it's used to deliver personalized ads. You can provide whatever message you want to the user, just like when we're getting permission for the camera, photos, etc., right? It's going to pop up. That should be good for our info.plist. If you are downloading my version or cloning my version from GitHub, I will not be having my GADapplicationIdentifier in there. You'll need to replace it with your own from that dashboard, just as a note. Okay, this is where we're going to now be going through Swift file to Swift file. I'm going to be first handling the ATT consent. This way, when it first appears on launch, they can get that permission right away. It's very important for the app tracking transparency, which is what ATT stands for. So let's go ahead and create a new empty file. I'm just going to call this one ATT Consent. So we need to do some importing. We're going to do foundation. We're going to import as well app tracking transparency. Now this is a framework that provides the ATT API, so the tracking manager. And we're also going to be importing ad support. Now this is access to advertising identifiers if it's authorized. Not directly used here, but it is commonly paired with ATT. So good to have. Okay, let's create a enum for the ATT related utilities. So we'll do enum, we'll call it ATT authorization. So the goal for this is we're only going to request tracking authorization if we haven't asked before, so we can avoid any repeat prompts. We'll create a static function and we'll call this one request if needed. Doing anything within the parameters here, and we'll have a guard and we'll call it ATT tracking manager. And then we're going to be looking at the tracking authorization status. And we can check this. So we're going to say if it is exactly equal to being not determined, we'll say else return. Because we want to see if the user's already made a choice, whether they've allowed or denied. If that's the case, do nothing. Then we'll give a small delay, which gives the app time to finish launching in the UI before actually presenting the system dialog. You know, like when you download an app and then you have to go through those permissions at first, we'll just do a quick dispatch queue. My favorite, dispatch queue. And we'll put that on the main and we'll do the async after. And we'll give it a deadline. We don't need this execute here and get rid of that. And for the deadline, we can have this basically be based off of now plus 0.5. So we're saying, hey, after the app launches and then about half a second after, if it hasn't been determined, let's go ahead and prompt the user. And we can prompt the user with the ATT tracking manager once again. This time we'll do the .request tracking authorization. We'll add a brace and we'll do underscore in. So this is totally optional, but you can react to the new status, whether that's configure SDKs for limited tracking if denied. So you have a little bit of flexibility here. This is just handling that ATT consent. Very good to do if you are showing personalized ads. Just as a note, we're using this not determined to avoid bothering users and to comply with policy. Okay, next let's go ahead and create a banner ad that we can display on our content view, and you can actually put that on whatever view you want to have the ad. So we're going to create a new view from template, and we're going to do a SwiftUI view. Let's call it BannerView. Okay, we have our import SwiftUI, and this time we're also going to be importing GoogleMobileAds. Now this is so we can actually have the mobile ads from our package dependency that we added with SPM. Now, although we did use the SwiftUI view, we're actually going to have this structure, instead of being a view, we're going to have it be a UI view representable. We will get a quick error because we don't have the stubs for conformance. We'll be going through and adding all that later. And we're going to get rid of our variable body sum view. Okay, so we're going to be adding our add unit ID. So we'll just call it, let add unit ID. Pretty simple stuff here. This is going to be a string value, and it's going to equal, and this is where we're going to be putting in that test ID. When you have gotten your app approved by Google and everyone, you can add those IDs from the add units. Otherwise, we're going to be using this developer link, again in the description below, in order to add in the demo add unit ID for testing. So when you're testing, always use these IDs. So we wanted the banner. We can either do the fixed sized banner or the adaptive banner. Let's go ahead and try the fixed size. If we want to do adaptive later, we can. We're going to pass through that string ID. Replace with your real unit ID only for any production builds. For testing, we're using these ones. Okay, let's also have a width. So we'll set a width value, which will just be a CG float. Okay, let's create some functions, and we'll have a make UI view, and we'll choose the autofill with context. Instead of returning some UI view, we're going to be returning the banner view. Essentially, we want to create an anchored adaptive banner size that matches the current width. This tells the SDK to pick an optimal height for its width and orientation. So let's create an ad size, which will be the current orientation. So we're going to choose this autofill, the current orientation anchor adaptive banner width. What a mouthful. And we're going to be passing through that width constant we just made above. And then we're going to go ahead and establish the banner, which is going to equal the banner view. And we're going to have the ad size, which is going to conform to ad size. This is going to interstate the GMA banner with the computed adaptive size. Let's then have our banner.addUnitID, which is going to equal that add unit ID we had created before, which is also great because when we go to production, we'll just update this string value here. Then we're going to look at our banner.delegate, which will be the context.coordinator. This is going to receive the load or success failure callbacks via the coordinator, which we do have with our context. Then we'll have our banner.root view controller. And you're saying, root view controller, what is this? UI kit? No, I promise. We're just going to have our UI application.shared, and then we'll do the .first key. And we want the window root view controller. And we'll have an error on this one for just a few more minutes, but this is required by the SDK to present the in-app content. So any click-throughs from a view controller, but we're not doing any UI kit view controller, don't worry. We'll then look at our banner and then the load. From here, we're going to be looking at a request. And this is going to start loading the banner with the default request parameters, and then we'll go ahead and return the banner. Okay, we have quite a few errors, which is totally fine. We still need to add some stubs for conformance, as well as the first key root controller. Okay, so outside of this function, we're going to create another function called update UI view. We'll do the autofill here as well, save some time. So if the container width changes for rotation, split view, we want to actually recompute the adaptive size so the banner height layout remain valid. So we'll create a new size, which will be the current orientation. Again, we want that anchor adaptive banner. And for the width, we're passing through that width constant we had already created, just like with before. Then we're going to create an if. So we're going to say if, and use our exclamation point for if not. So if it is not CG size equal to size here, for size 1, we're going to do new size dot size. For the size 2 placeholder, we're going to do the UI view dot add size dot size. We'll then add a brace, and we want this to only update and reload if the size actually changed to avoid any redundant requests. We don't want to be looking at this all the time. We'll take the UI view dot add size. It'll equal the new size. It's going to apply the new adaptive size, and then our UI view dot load. We're going to go and have that request. This will reload that banner for the new size. Okay, I know there's tons of red. We're going to get out of the red zone, I promise. A couple more things to do here. So we're going to do a function. I'll call it make coordinator. We'll use our autofill here. And from here, we're just going to have our brace. And within the code, we're just going to have our coordinator with the empty brackets. This is essentially just a SwiftUI bridge. Coordinator lets UIKit delegate, communicate back to SwiftUI. And we can handle that coordinator. If you've done any UIKit bridging before, you might be familiar with a lot of this concept already. We're going to do a final class and call it coordinator. This is going to be an NS object, as well as a BannerView delegate. Go ahead and add our brace. This way we can implement the banner delegate to observe ad load results. This is really good for logging analytics or triggering UI changes when an ad loads or when it fails. So within this class, we're going to create some methods. So we're going to use function BannerView did receive ad. And this is going to be called when an ad successfully loads. Now you can choose to add code here or not. You can just totally comment it off. I think we might as well, right? Where we can have our banner loaded. And then we'll create another function here, and we'll have our banner view. And we're going to choose this autofill down here where it says did fail to receive ad with error. Here we can then also print, banner failed. And then we can actually interpolate that error dot localized description so we know what happened. So we're actually going to go out of our structure here, so right above our preview, and we're going to create a private extension, and this will be for the UI application. We'll go ahead and add our braces. This is going to be a helper to find a root view controller for presenting the UIKit APIs. GoogleMobileAds does require it still, but we're doing it through bridging with SwiftUI, way better. So we are requiring a valid UI view controller to present click-throughs to the other full screen content, right? So when you click on an ad, maybe visiting a website. We'll create a function here and we'll call it first key window root view controller. If you want to copy and paste it from all the way up here where we had our banner, feel free to do so. This is going to return the UI view controller. And we're going to make this optional with a question mark. Go ahead and add some braces, and we want to support multi-scene apps for any iPad OS or Mac OS catalysts and find the key window. So we're going to be looking at the connected scene, and from here we're going to add some properties. We could do the compact map, and within the braces we're going to be putting this within some brackets, and we're going to do our $0 because we're doing a map after all, as question mark UI window scene. Outside of the brackets, we'll do our question mark dot key window. Wonderful. So after those braces, but still kind of looking at the properties of the connected scenes, we'll look at the first with our question mark, and then we'll be having the root view controller. And there we go. We have solved pretty much all of the errors here. On the function update UI view, where we have our UI view and UI view type, we're going to be updating this to be our banner view. Okay, let's go ahead and then get rid of our preview, and then we'll create one more private extension here for the UI window scene. Add our brace, and we want to have some convenience to get the current key window from a scene. So we'll create a variable called key window, which is going to conform to the UI window with our question mark. We'll add a brace here, and we'll have our windows dot first, which is the autofill with where. From here, we'll add our brace and we'll do our $0 dot is key window. Alrighty. Oh, that's funny. I called my structure banner view when it should be BannerAdView because we're already using that in the SDK. So if your structure was called BannerView, rename it to BannerAdView. I was like, but what's still going on with those errors? Funny little goof. That should resolve them all there. Can't have the thing named twice, right? Okay, so if you want to take a moment to just double check the boilerplate code, feel free to do so. Make sure you're using that add unit ID. Again, that is available on the developer website here, and you can just copy and paste it, either the adaptive banner or the fixed sized banner. Okay, let's go ahead and wire this up in our content view, and then we'll do the other advertisement. Okay, we don't need to actually import AdView because everything's being handled within our banner view right now, which is great. Let's go ahead and create a state for our available width. So we'll do a state private var and we'll call it available. This will be a CG float, and let's have it be 320. All right, we can get rid of our placeholders here. I'll just replace the text. Hello, ads. And you know what? Let's go ahead and add a geometry reader. I haven't really used these too much. We'll have our geo in for geometry in, and here's where we're going to have our banner add view. And we'll pass through the width, which will be the geo.size.width. Okay, and we can add a frame here. And for the width, we'll make this the geo.size.width. And then for the height, we'll give it a flat number, maybe 50. We can always adjust this. And our alignment, let's have it be center. Then let's add a background. I'm going to usually do a like ultra thin material or something. This is like a slight background to separate the ad from the content visually. And we can even see on our preview test mode, this is a test ad. Yeah, sometimes it like super zooms in on the simulator as you saw, but this is what it should look like. Okay, and let's also add an overlay. And I'm going to add a little divider here. And I'll also add an alignment for the top. And I like to do the ignore safe area. I'm going to put my edges to the bottom. You can, put this wherever you like. Like, let's actually just put a spacer here real quick. And if you really want to, like, always leave room for the banner, right? You could even, like, min-length this to, like, 80. Okay, and then we'll do an on up here. And we'll have our available width. And we had that be our state private variable above. And this will equal the geo.size.width. This way we can initialize the width on the first layout. Then if the device is rotating, we can actually do the dot on change. From here, we'll look of the action. So on the geo.size.width, then look at the available width one more time. We'll have it equal the $0. Then at the end of the geometry reader, I'm going to add a frame here just to constrain the geometry reader's height so it doesn't take over the entirety of the layout. So I'll have our height, that to be 50. And we can also add an alignment. And let's have this be for the bottom. Something you also might want to do is, say we just have our V stack. We can actually use a Z or Z stack in order to kind of make sure that the overlay of the banner at the bottom, while we can still have content that kind of scrolls above. So what I would do is I'd have that Z stack. And then within the brackets, I would have the alignment be the bottom. And we don't need that content here. Cool, and we'll wait for our banner to load. Again, another reason to use those test IDs. If you're using the real ID, you might be sending false flags. that an advertisement's being delivered or interacted with, and you don't want to get banned, right? And there we go, we have our test mode. Now, if I do click on this in the preview, it's not going to take us anywhere. So let's go ahead and run it in the simulator. This is also a good idea to check if you're not getting an ad popping up, or if you're running this and you're getting a crash saying that, hey, it doesn't have the proper app ID, go back into your Info.plist. Yeah, mine's going to be blurred out, but make sure you've pasted in the correct identifier. Again, it's the one with the tilde or squiggly line. Okay, and there we go. We have our test mode. Again, I'm using the fixed size. If we wanted to change it maybe to the adaptive banner, we can go ahead and pop that in as well. We go to our banner view, and when you do have your actual one for production, you would be putting it in there too. And there we go. I'm going to be blurring this ad because I don't want to break any policies about showing any advertisements. But there we go. And we can actually click on this if we wanted to. We can see we are still in test mode. And if we click on this, it will, because we're on the simulator, take us to that link in Safari. Okay, I'm going to show you how to now also do the interstitial ad, as I think that's a pretty cool one. You can either trigger this with a button. Usually a lot of these happen after a certain amount of action, so maybe you play 15 levels and you got to watch an ad for the free version, right? And we are going to be starting off in a new empty file, and let's call this one interstitial ad. Okay, we're going to take care of our imports first. We'll do our good old friend SwiftUI. We'll then also do the GoogleMobileAds, as well as combine and foundation. So this is going to be a final class, and it's going to be our interstitial ad manager. And this is going to conform to the NS object as well as an observable object. Now I'm also going to be adding the full screen content delegate here. Then going to go ahead and add our brace. So again, we're going to have a lot of boiler code, but we're going to have our private let of our ad unit ID. And again, we're going to be using that test ID. So let's go ahead and grab it. So we want the interstitial. Here we go. Go ahead and copy and paste that. Perfect. Next, we want to keep a strong reference to the loaded interstitial until it's shown or in case it fails. We'll have a private var of interstitial. I feel like that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. Which is going to conform to the interstitial ad. And we'll make it optional here. Okay, let's add some methods. The first method we're going to add is to request a new interstitial. This should be called initially and again after presentation and dismissal. So we'll just call this one function load. Don't need anything within those brackets. We'll add our braces, and we're going to have an add request. We're going to make it default. So we'll do let request equals the default request that we do have here with the empty parameters. You can customize it if you need targeting or even test device IDs. Then we'll look at the interstitial ad once again. This time we're going to be doing the dot load with, and we're going to be passing through the ad unit ID. So this way, when we do update it, when on production, it automatically gets handled, and we'll have our request, which will be that request we just created above. We'll then add our braces here, and we'll create an array of weak self outside of these square brackets, but still within the braces. We'll have our add, comma, error, in. Now this is going to asynchronously load the interstitial and capture self weakly to avoid any retain cycles. Okay, let's still within these braces now create an if let error. And from here we can print the failed to load, and we can interpolate that error. From there we'll be adding our semicolon and returning. So this way we can log as well as bail if the request has failed. Then we'll take our self, and we'll be doing the question mark here, dot interstitial, which will equal the ad. Now this is going to hold on to the loaded ad for later presentation, and then the self dot interstitial is going to be optional, and we're going to be looking at the full screen content delegate, which would equal self. So this is going to receive presentation, dismissal, callbacks in order to manage that load cycle. And just for good developer consoling, let's go ahead and say that it is loaded. So interstitial has loaded. Smiley face. No, you don't have to put the smiley face. Imagine you're getting your code reviewed and it's like, man, why is it every time you have a print statement, there's either a smiley face, neutral face, or a sad face? Like, because that's how I feel. Okay, let's create another function here, and we'll have this one be for presenting. So essentially you want to present the interstitial if available, otherwise we'll kick off a load. So we'll have a guard let here, and we're going to be having the root, which will equal the UI application.shared.first key window view root controller. So if you went through the banner view, you kind of can see where this is heading. Else we'll be having it just return, which is pretty standard for a lot of these guard statements, right? Typically they end in an else return. Then we'll have our guard let interstitial dot else, add a brace here, and we can print that is not ready, loading now. Outside of that print statement, we'll add our semicolon and we'll try to load it, we'll add another semicolon and return. So essentially, if it's not ready, we're going to trigger the load and exit. The UI can try again later. Okay, outside of that guard let, but still within our present function, we'll have our interstitial, and we'll do the dot present, and that will be from the root. Oh, and make sure you spell it correctly. Look at that. I'll copy and paste so I don't make any more errors. Although I have been known to make errors with copy and pasting. I don't know how I do it. It's a magic trick. Okay, now we're going to be using the full screen content delegate from GoogleMobileAds. So we'll have a function and we'll say add did dismiss full screen content. From here within the brackets, we're going to be having an underscore ad, which is the full screen presenting ad. We're going to add our brace here and we'll print that it is dismissed. Loading next. So after dismissal, we want to clear the reference and load the next ad. So we'll have our self.interstitial, which will equal nil, and then we'll have our self.load with the empty brackets. Afterwards, we'll have another function, and we'll just call this one add. Here we're going to have our underscore add, which is going to conform to the full screen presenting ad, just like we had above here. Comma did fail to, and this is going to be all camel case, present full screen content with error. I feel like I'm supposed to have an autofill here, but you know, here we are. And that's going to be an error, which is going to conform to the error here. Okay, let's go ahead and add our brace here. Essentially, if the presentation fails, we want to clear and attempt to load again. So we can use a print statement again and failed to present. And we can interpolate our error here as well. And we'll have our self.interstitial, you know, we're just going to copy and paste this from above because we're repeating the same process. Okay, a couple more things to do. We're going to go ahead and go outside of our class, just like we did with the banner, and we're going to have some private extensions. This will be for the UI application. This is another helper to locate the root view controller for presentation and any multi-scene apps. We're going to have our method, or I guess function, of first key, it knows what it wants to do, first key window root view controller, which is going to return the UI view controller marked as optional. Actually, we even copy and paste it for our banner view. You know what? Work harder, not smarter. Let's do it. We're just adding those helpers that are kind of like a bridge. Perfect. So in my content view, I'm gonna be wiring this up as a button. I typically see this as something like after 5 levels, you get an ad, you have to watch for like 10-15 seconds or whatever, right? Totally up to you how you want to handle this. Buttons for me are just easier to test with, but I don't think too many people are going to be pressing the I want to watch an ad video. Yeah, that certainly would happen. Okay, we're going to add a state object, which is a private var, and we'll call it interstitial, which is going to equal the interstitial ad manager. We're going to be referencing that class. This way it can own it for the life of the view. Okay, let's go ahead and quickly create a button here. And we'll just have it say show interstitial. and we'll reference the interstitial dot present. That's how we can get the ad to appear. Let's go ahead and add some button styling, do some border prominent. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna actually take our VStack, I'm gonna move it up a little bit here. So I'm gonna put the end of it before the geo reader. And then at the bottom of the VStack here, I'm gonna do a dot on appear. I'm gonna add our braces. And when it does appear, I'm going to do our interstitial, I'm terrible at spelling it and pronouncing it, dot load. So anytime that it does appear, it's going to load it ahead of time. So when the view loads, it's loading it in the background. We should be able to now press the button and it should appear and we should see the ad. I have mixed results and kind of experiences with the ad here. Now you can even see that there's a little bit of a timer that went across the screen and then we were able to press the X button. Let's go ahead and test it out in the simulator. Okay, there we go. Our app is loading. Still might take a few seconds to have the banners and all those appear. Definitely works better on a real device. Let's go ahead and press our button. Let it load on up. We can always check the console to see what's happening. We can see not ready, loading now, which is one of our print statements. It is loading on up. You can see our bottom banners appearing. Let's try the ad again. Nice job. We have our interstitial test ad. Perfect. One more thing we need to do. We're pretty much done, I promise. So let's go to our app file. So as you noticed, we never got to see the app tracking policy. Although we created the file for it, we never properly linked it on the launch of our application. So let's add one quick import, which will be the GoogleMobileAds. Under the main where we have our structure, we're going to do an at environment. From here, we're going to do our /.scene phase. This will be a private var, and we'll call it scene phase. This is to observe app lifecycle to time privacy prompts and any other behaviors. After that, we'll have an initializer, which will have empty brackets. In the braces, we're going to have our mobile ads dot shared dot start, and then we'll have a status in. Now, essentially, this is going to initialize the Google Mobile Ads SDK early, so ad requests can be processed. As we saw, we loaded it, but it was still taking a long time to get those ads in the bottom and in the interstitial to pop up. And the status is available within the completion, so if we need to inspect the adapter states, we totally can. Next, we'll go to our window group, and here we're booting into our content view. Totally fine. On the braces of the window group, let's go ahead and add a dot on change of. So on the change of the scene phase, don't need our action autofill here. We'll add a brace and we'll do underscore, comma, new phase in. And this is going to request the ATT after the app becomes active to ensure the prompt appears over our UI. So if new phase double equals dot active, add our brace, and this will present the ATT only when foregrounded for a better user experience. So I'll reference that ATT authorization dot request if needed. Let's go ahead and boot up the app, and we should get those requests to pop up. And here we go, we can see allow them to track, and you can ask not to track or allow. There we go. So we had the ATT, so that tracking up here. Awesome. So we have our test, we have our interstitial, we are good to go. Again, the simulator sometimes takes like a little bit to get going, but in a normal production app on a device, you should be more than okay. Nice job. So before we wrap up, first of all, congratulations on getting the ads set up. Upload your app to the App Store, get it approved by Apple, then send that link to Google, and then replace those ads with the production ad links. So let's quickly take a moment to talk about the best practices for those ad placements. For any persistent ads, so like your banners that we have here, bottom of the screen below core UI content, avoid it having being near buttons or navigation bars, right? If you have a navigation controller in the bottom, make sure it's not there. Also, I don't think we ever showed off the kind of adaptable banner. Let's go ahead and rotate it real quick. We can see our test mode banner at the bottom here. And actually, let's go ahead and also put it on an iPad just so we can see that real quick. And while that's loading up, for those interstitials, so those full screen kind of pop over ads, show them only at natural breaks between those levels, as I mentioned, maybe after a foreign submission, maybe a view transition, so maybe closing or finishing out a task. Avoid mid-action or mid-roll. Never use these to interrupt user actions. Preload them early so that on appear and present only when ready. For any reward ads, so these are optional for engagement, when users choose to gain live currencies or maybe engage with premium features, always give them value. Make it feel like a fair trade, not a requirement. So if you want to give the user 2 more tries in your game and they watch an ad, kind of like a little bit of a transaction, right? For general rules, never on a splash or welcome screen. I think if I saw an ad when loading up a app, I'd uninstall that one pretty quick. And never next to navigation. Should not be next to next buttons or continue buttons, trying to have people misclick in order to engage on your ad. Seems a little sketchy, right? Always handle that ATT tracking and include a privacy policy link if you have one, and test with a real device UI to ensure ads do not overlap with content. Simulator is great, but always make sure you're testing on real devices. And here we go, we have the iPad. Again, we can choose to track, not to track. I believe you can always update that in settings, and we can have the pop-up ad. There it is. Ooh, the interstitial test ad is huge on the iPad, but I guess that is a bigger screen. And we can also see our banner. Here we go at the bottom of the screen. And again, we could click on that to go to where we need to go to. So if you enjoyed today's video and you have now successfully added test ads, so your next steps are to finish your app, get it on the App Store, have fun with that. Once it's been on the App Store, you can send the link to Google, and from there they will approve your app for actual ads. So back in our web browser, I'm just on the app. If you want to create the real ad units, I think I showed it for a second, add the ad unit, it's in this case Banner. And you can play with the advanced settings. You'll create the ad unit. And you'll see here, complete the instructions. There's a little bit of a guide if you need some more help there as well. We already have them in place, and you'll just be taking this value, it's blurred out on my end, and from there, you'll be replacing that from the test code with the real banner ad. I would always just test with the test ones, and then when you're ready and good to go, you can swap it up at the end. You can also link this to Firebase if you need to, otherwise you can see the earnings from app to app. So if this video helped you get ads, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, dream big, code bigger, and we'll see you in the next one, and have a great day.